method. That method is calling one more controller. One more controller is calling one more controller. One more controller is calling one more, like that. If your chain of controllers calling, method level security will apply for all the controllers. Okay. Maybe I'll discuss it later. Now, first of all, I don't want to confuse you with these things here right now. I'll discuss it later. Enable global method security, which is taking care of having method level security. Okay. If you want to have security at method level, where we can have this particular point here. Next one is enable web security. We already saw that. Enable JPA repository, just like instead of writing depository, where we are going to have this. Now I'm taking authentication manager builder, right? Previously we have authentication manager builder, right? Now what we are doing authentication manager builder is, previously we hard coded the data right here. This is how we hard coded the data. Naresh IT admin, Naresh IT admin, guest and admin. That is how we hard coded the data. This is static. Now I'm taking a dynamic data. I'm telling that authentication manager builder. I'm telling that user details service. Whatever the service I wrote here, whatever the user detail service I wrote here, that user detail service. Authentication manager builder dot that user detail service with password encoder. With password encoder as, I mean, my entire data is available here. Whatever the user details password value is there. Okay. That user ID password here. And whatever the role, which is the user details object, is having that role, and everything user ID and password and role, everything is available in the user detail service class, which is going to typically call the password encoder method. Okay. The password encoder method is, I'm going to write my own encoding. I told you, right, without noob keyword. We are not having any noob keyword. We are typically having a password encoder. So what is password encoder? If I want to use crypto system, my own crypto system, okay. So first, we will I'll discuss this part at later, because there is a critical point. Lot of things we need to discuss over here. Okay. So authentication manager builder is having a dynamic Java class. It's having a dynamic Java class, that is user detail service. That user detail service is a dynamic class. How we can populate? Here I'm telling that custom user details. Okay. So how I'm setting this dynamic data and how I'm doing, I'm going to explain here. Custom user detail service, which implements user detail service. Why we need to implement? Because I need to override load user by username, right? I need to override the data. That's what I mentioned, right? Theory time. We need to override the load user by username method. So which is nothing but custom user detail service, which is taking care of user detail service, where I am overriding load user by username. And what is the output here? User details object is the output, which is equal to arg dot spring framework dot. This is a framework object, right? User details object is a framework object. Arg dot spring framework dot security dot core dot user details object. So typically this is the signature which is given by the framework, and we are overriding this. Why we are overriding? In previous examples also this code was there, but we no need to override. In this case, we need to override. The overriding part is, what is that we need to override? We only know the data where the data is available, in which schema, in which table. Our responsibility is to append the data, to populate the data to the user details object. We need to populate the data to the user details object. So which is equal to optional of users or whatever it may be. So which I am calling, just now I told you, right, the derived method, right? So which is going to write a query, select star from users, inner join roles, so that our data is coming out of from the database. That is DB user data, right? DB user data. The data is available in the database is a DB user data. Now we need to dump the data, DB user data, into user details object. That is what our code, isn't it? I mentioned, right? Authentication object, authorization object is created by the framework, and developer need to populate the values. Okay. So here by default, what I'm trying to showcase is I have the database data, which is a DB user data, and we need to dump the data into this particular object of user details object. So user repository dot find by name. With that object, it is going to look for the data and it is going to update the data. Sir, everyone is following till now? Any questions so far? As of now?
This DB user data is our own
Our
object
data,
name.
our own object name, and which is storing whatever the data which we store, right, in this table.
Yeah.
That data. Sir, clear?
Yes, sir.
That's why I wrote my object name also to be inline to that. Yeah.
Sir, if we don't overwrite the load user by username, and if we have our own customized, just in that we just call the users repository dot find by name. So
Correct, sir.
don't we
Correct. But when you click on submit button, are you writing code for submit button?
Mm,
Understand, right? You are not writing a code for submit button, right?
yes, not right.
Submit button is not in our control, right?
Okay.
That's the point here. Okay. The point is whether you store user ID password in the memory, whether you store user ID password in the property file, whether you store user ID password in the database, whether you store user ID password in the LDAP, whether you store user ID password in the Okta or SAML, some other providers, whether you store user ID password in the Gmail or Facebook, I don't care. That's what framework is thinking. It wrote a common method, load user by user. And if it knows if it is in property file, it only writes. If it is in memory, it only writes. But whenever it is in database, it don't know in which schema, in which table, right? Hence, we need to overwrite. And whatever the duty it is doing, the similar duty I need to do that. Like getting the data from my database and populate the data to the framework object. That is how we need to take it. I hope clear that question, right?
Yes, sir. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Sir, any other question, guys, as of now? So everyone is clear?
Yes.
So now I'm getting the data. Whenever I have the data in one object, which is having different structure, I need to give the data to this object, which is of different structure. I need to dump the data from DB user data to the user details object. We need to dump the data from DB user data to the user details object. There are four approaches are there in that context. First approach I'm going to take it. What is that first approach is I am taking, it is an important point, guys. It's a very, very important point. A normal Java class I'm taking, which is custom user details class. A normal Java class I'm taking. Custom user details class I'm taking, which extends my database class, which implements my framework class. A typical Java class I have taken. Okay. This Java class, which extends the database class, users, my database class, right? And implements framework class. What we are achieving here through custom user details object, I mean, through this, with this, I will take the data from here and I'll give the data to this. Users data will come to custom user details and custom user details will be given to user details. Through this object, that source is this, destination is this, mediator is this. That is the approach one. So what I'm doing here, I am taking once data comes db user data dot map my custom user details, which is of new keyword. Streams and map, we have a Java 8. I'm mapping this data and I'll give to this object and get the new object, which is the output object. So here, user details is a springboot predefined class, which is having users, which is having roles and user to roles. If you see that user details object, interface, user details, which is equal to password, username, account is expired or not, account is locked or not, is credentials are expired or not, is user is enabled or not, and what are my rules. Granted authority I mentioned, right? This is the predefined interface by the framework, which is having these details, which is having user details object. Now, what I'm writing here, I am taking the data to this through constructor. Users means my database object, right? I'm taking this data. So whenever I'm taking constructor, through constructor, I'm getting the data. Now, when framework is asking, how framework will ask? What is the logic of framework? Is I have saved the data into user details object, right? We have saved the data into user details object, right? Is user details dot username is equal to text box username. Is user details dot password is equal to text box password. Is user details dot role name is expected role name. That is what framework will think, right? Whenever framework is asking user details dot username, it will going to call overriding method, right? User details dot username. Then I'll give super dot get name, my database username. Understand? When framework is calling user details dot get username, it is giving get username is framework object. Super dot get name is our object. Super dot get name is our database object. Is that clear, guys? Everyone? As of now, is this clear to everyone?
Yes.
Yeah. So by default, please remember, guys, user details dot username. Whenever it is calling, I'm giving my database value. And whenever it is asking user details dot get password, I'm giving my password. So database username, database password, and also it is giving extra properties also. If you use it or not, we don't care. We are giving extra properties also. What is the properties? Is account is expired or not? What do you mean by account expiry? In banking system, okay, if I'm not using my account for the last 90 days or 180 days, if I'm not at all using, I'm not doing any transaction, then they will keep my account in inactive status, right? So I can write my last login time to this current time. If it is something, I can write a logic, but I'm not writing here. I'm simply telling that my account is not expired, and my account is not at all expired, and account is logged. If I type the password 3 times wrong, then my account will be locked, right? I can take that. Is credentials are expired. If I am not changing the password for 90 days or 180 days, if I'm not at all changing the password, then it is credentials are expired. Like that, I mean simply I'm written true here, but if you want, you can write your own logic. And his account is active. Yes. Simply I wrote everything true value. For everything I'm writing true value. Account is not expired. Account is not logged. Credentials are not expired, and account is active status. All these things are typically given. Okay. So I have given username, I have given password, and all the values are available here. Okay. Now the next point is, as I mentioned, right? We need to append role underscore role name. This is what I mentioned, right? So we give username, we give password, and we give role underscore plus role name. This is what we give. That part of code we are going to write here. Okay. So guys, how many of you worked on streams and maps in core Java? Streams and maps, Java 8. Anyone worked
Yeah.
on that?
Yes, sir. Well done.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you are not worked on, kindly get some core Java knowledge, which is in Java 8. Okay. So by default, all our roles, assuming that I'm having a Ramu user, this Ramu is having 4 roles: admin role, guest role, security role, super admin role, something like that. Then what we need to append? Role underscore admin, role underscore guest, role underscore security, role underscore super admin. Something like we need to write. Okay. But what I'm trying to say is, If I want to write this code, this is a normal Java code. List of simple granted authority is equal to new array list of simple granted authority. For each and every role, simple granted authority is equal to new simple granted authority, role underscore plus role name. I need to add this particular code. This is a normal Java code we will write, right? This is typically a normal Java code, right? If I want to form this object, but I don't want to form like that. Okay, I don't want to form like that because array list is the costliest object, right? What I'm doing is I'm writing streams and maps. I will explain, guys. One line of code completely take care of this. One line of code completely take care of this. Okay, so get roles. What is get roles is going? Get roles is nothing but it is going to go to the database. We have a get roles is there, right? So it is go to a database and gets the data. So 4 roles will come here. So it is going to select star from user underscore role and it is going to give the data. Then stream, it is going to iterate stream API, which internally iterate and call the map method. Stream is nothing but it will iterate. For every row, it will call the map method. For example, first role is admin. Admin will come here. Then for admin, this code will be executed. So it's equal to new simple granted authority. Whatever this code I wrote, right, I am writing here. And it is collected. Then second, guest method. And with the guest method, it is taking care of role underscore plus guest. And third method, role underscore manager. And fourth method, role underscore security. Okay, totally 4 methods are available here. So role underscore admin, role underscore guest, role underscore manager, role underscore security. All this will be collected and it will giving to a list object. Totally, it is going to give a particular list object. So simply this code is internally taking care of this. Isn't it? So this is the streams as well as maps code. Maybe I'm going to share the code to you guys, everyone. Okay. Today only I'm going to share this code and kindly, and I'll explain tomorrow also again, once again, because it's a little bit complex code. It's my responsibility that I'm going to explain that. Okay. So as of now, I'm sharing the code to everyone. So topic is dynamic authentication, dynamic authorization code. So which is equal to